Hello, my stamping friends. Today I'm here with you to show you how I made this fun fold card. Stands like that from the top. And then it does fit into a regular size envelope. You just have to be careful when you do your measurement, but I will show you how we do that. The supplies for this, the bundle that we're using is the Amber Autumn, and the dies that go along with it. The measurements for this card, we have a thick basic white that measures 8.5 by 5.5, and it is scored at 4.5 and then 2 1/8 on each end. We have basic white that's 5.5 by 4.25, and it's scored at 2 3/4. The designer paper that I'm using is Gathering Together, so you'll need 2 pieces that measure 2.5 by 4. You'll need a total of 4 pieces that measure 1 7/8 by 5.25, and I'm using 2 different patterns. And then I have a basic white that is 2.5 by 4, and it's cut with a 3rd largest textured notes die. I die cut one of the leaves out of Cajun Craze, and that's just a scrap. And then for the pumpkins, you'll need a 3 by 3 basic white, and I've already stamped it and started coloring it for you. So with that, let's get started here. So on the card base, the thick basic white, you're going to fold it in half like normal. And then each of these is going to fold back. I've got Wink of Stella on my bone folder. Oh well, it'll just add a little bit of extra sparkle there. Okay, so there's the base of the card. So with that one, you're just going to take the 4 strips that are 1 7/8 by 5.25, and you're just going to adhere them every other one to these panels. So we'll do that here real quick. And this is same pattern, same paper in a different design from the same pack. And I don't think there's really a right way or a wrong way. This mushroom is going right. This one's upside down. I don't think it really matters. So we're going to just adhere that to this front panel. Then I'm going to use, and I decided I'm going to use the foil side of my paper today. You can certainly flip them over and use the other side as well. So then this one's going to go here. And if you want to make sure that you're getting them even on the top here, you can open this up. And then we'll do this piece. Trying to line up all the edges there. And we'll get this last piece on here. Okay, easy peasy for that part. Now the next section is the basic white that's 5.5 by 4 1/4, and we scored it at 2 3/4. So we'll just fold that in half and use our bone folder again. And then these pieces that measure 2.5 by 4 are going to go on there. And again, I think I'm going to use the side that has the gold foil on it. This paper is so rich. And then this is going to open from the left, not from the right. This paper doesn't matter, but if your paper had a design, you would definitely want it to open from the left. The actual assembly of this card is really quick and easy. It'll take time to color if that's what you choose to do. Okay, so then on the back is where we're going to add this rectangle cup from the Textured Notes dies. So I'm going to take the leaf and a little bit, I don't think I have any liquid glue in that one. I have this little bottle that has a finer tip on it that has the Tombow liquid glue in it. So we'll just add a little bit of glue to that. And then I'm just going to angle it like that. I always like to put the little silicone cap back on that. And then we're going to, I didn't tell you, we stamped this image in Early Espresso. So I'm still using the Early Espresso ink. And I just realized I'm missing my label piece. And then this is a tight fit, but it does fit, and I'm just going to stamp that at the top. And both of these stamps come out of this same bundle. I'm going to let that sit for just a minute. I'm going to look at my other kits here and see if by chance I have the label in here. Here's one. So on this little label, I cut it out with the, I believe it's the More Messages die. Let me see. I don't see my package here right quick, but it's the die that has all the different shapes in it. It has a coordinating stamp set that goes with it. I think it's More Messages. So I'm going to still stamp with Early Espresso. The red rubbers are going to go away. Stampin' Up's no longer going to make these red rubber stamps. But if you have them and you have a greeting especially, you want to see if the spacing at the top and the bottom is equal. Sometimes it's the words are more at the top or more at the bottom. When you're stamping on a little tiny strip like that, it's helpful to know where your greeting is going to be because it's not going to necessarily match the words on the back. So we're going to just tap, tap, tap really light. And we'll see if I can get this straight on here. It's a little low, but I think it's good. So I'll let that sit for a minute. We're going to just adhere this to the back of our little pop-out section. Now remember, you want the opening to go to the left, so we're going to put this on the back side. So we'll just adhere that down. Oops, it wasn't dry. You see that? I've got my ink all over that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish. I might pull that off and do another one. But for now, I'm going to show you how to line this up. I normally use a piece of grid paper, but I didn't bring a grid paper. So I have my ruler, and I'm lining this up at the edge of the ruler. We're going to center this, and now remember I told you it can't be more than 4 1/4. So right there I'm just under 4 1/4. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this in place. I'm going to take my adhesive and run it along the side here. Now you don't want to go too far in, otherwise it's going to seal it shut. So then once you have it on the front, then you can turn it over. And close the back. There you have your fun fold. Okay. So what I did for the greeting is I took some Versamark and I kind of did it diagonally, a little bit of a slant, and I just tapped the edge of my greeting in the Versamark. This is a white, clear sticky ink. And then I have my gold embossing powder. And I'm just gonna tap that in there. And if you have any flecks where you don't want them, you can take a paintbrush. Something else that also works really good, if you have your take your pick tool, you can pick up the flecks with your take your pick tool. Okay, I'm gonna heat set this. You'll want to use some tweezers so you don't burn your fingers. So I think you can see that now I have just a little bit of a gold edge on there. So now we're going to do the other side. Again, just kind of at an angle, kind of tapping it in there. And then we'll dip it into the gold embossing powder. Then I'll heat set that again. Okay, so then now we've edged it in gold embossing powder. Close that up. And then I'm going to bring in a scratch piece of paper, and I'm just going to show you how I colored some of this. The stems I colored with pecan pie, and I used a ton of blends on this. So we have pecan pie light and dark. The leaves I did light and dark old olive. And I did some of these leaves. The corn I did with Darling Duckling. And with the dark one, I just kind of tapped randomly on the corn. And then I came in with the light and colored in the rest. You could certainly make this corn different colors. I know corn comes in different colors. I just opted to make it all yellow. And then for the husk of the corn, I did crumb cake. And with the dark, I just went over the lines that the artist has in the stamp set for us. Nothing too fancy there. And then I took the light and colored it in. And I think my light is just about dry, but for this little area, it will work. Okay. For the leaf, I did dark and light Cajun Craze. And so I just kind of went over the veins and then came in with the light and colored it in. This pumpkin I colored with, let's see, the gourd is this one. I used Timid Tiger on this larger pumpkin. This gourd here, I'm going to use Dark Peach Pie. And I'm just going to follow the lines that the artist has put in here for us. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to take Dark Petal Pink and color in the rest. Just so it had a contrast, wasn't too much orange. And this is Timid Tiger. This pumpkin here, I actually used Dark and Light Pumpkin Pie. So where the little lines are, I just came in here, kind of put a dark line around the edge. I love these markers. I am definitely not an artist, but they sure make you look like you know what you're doing. And it helps that the artist at Stampin' Up! Has put in the shading lines for us. So I think we'll call that good. And then I'm going to take the light pumpkin pie and just go over it. When I use the fat end, I like to use the side of the marker versus the tip. And if you're coloring a larger area, kind of like this pumpkin, it goes a little bit faster than if you use the bullet end. And then you can go over it again. And if you leave some lighter spots, it's okay. It just adds some shading to the pumpkin, I think. Okay, we'll call that good. And then I'm going to use dimensionals on the back of this. And we'll just put this right about there. The greeting I'm going to put along the bottom. So I'm just going to put a small dimensional on the very ends. And I'm just going to put that over the bottom a little bit. And then I'm using Pressed Flower Motifs embellishments. So I like to use my Take Your Pick tool. And since I have maybe some embossing powder on that, I'm going to take that off. And then you just squeeze this tight and it brings out more putty for you, fresh putty. And then when you have enough putty, then you just unscrew it and it stops pushing that putty out. And I like to use my Take Your Pick tool. I go from the side and just pick up an embellishment. And we'll put that one there. On this one, since I have more of the large ones than I do small ones, I'm going to go ahead and use all large ones on this card. And Decisions. There we have. I don't know which one I like better, the green background or the brown. I kind of like the green background. But there you have. You can sign this section of the card. There you have a quick, easy fall card that has a fun fold to it. Thank you so much for stopping by. I greatly appreciate it. If you've liked my video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Bye for now.